And we have a go for auto sequence start. Discovery's onboard computers have primary control of all the vehicle's critical functions. Start, 2, 1, booster ignition, and liftoff of the Space Shuttle Discovery.
Welcome to the Launchpad. I'm your host, Harry Washington, and those of you joining us for the first time, this show is sponsored by Pursuing a Dream Corporation. And if you're not familiar with Pursuing a Dream Corporation, we're a 501c3 that steers students towards pursuing degrees and careers in the areas of science, technology, engineering, and math. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. Christopher Walls with BG&E. He's the manager for conservation programs. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
Now, what's the mission for BG&E, for those who don't know?
Baltimore Gas and Electric's primary mission is to safely, economically, and reliably deliver electric and natural gas to our customers throughout Central Maryland. We do that through being very environmentally sensitive. Mm-hmm. We do that through measured and specific investments in maintaining our distribution system. Okay. And most importantly, we do that through an emphasis on safety, as you can imagine, and I'm sure your viewers can imagine and appreciate as well, that maintaining an electric and natural gas distribution system can be extremely dangerous, and we take safety extremely important, and it's a very, very integral part of how we deliver electric and natural gas to Maryland.
Now, what is your title in terms of the manager of conservation programs? What does that exactly entail?
I have the privilege of being responsible for implementing the residential energy efficiency and conservation programs for BGE. We've got a whole host of programs that help customers save energy and save money, help to manage their bills. And so I manage what's called the BGE Smart Energy Savers groups of programs. And there's a whole host of efforts that we have underway, and it's a fantastic job, and actually yesterday was 21 years for me at BGE.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So then what got you interested in working with BGE?
I actually have a marketing background. I have a couple of degrees in marketing and business management, and these are sort of programs related to, you need good marketing skills and project management and program management skills, and I've always been environmentally conscious. I'm actually from the eastern shore of Maryland, and we focus a lot on the environment there and the world around us, and so it was always an area for me to that I was interested in, and I'm able to focus on it now.
Now, how many customers does BG&E service?
We are responsible for Central Maryland, and that includes about 1.2 million customers in Central Maryland and, for electric, and about 655,000 natural gas customers.
Wow. Now, what kind of tips would you give our viewers for conserving energy?
Well, there's some really, really easy ways that just about every customer can enjoy energy savings immediately. Probably the first that I would recommend and always recommend for customers is to buy compact fluorescent lighting. Okay. Lighting is a pretty significant portion of an overall consumer's bill, and it's an extremely easy way to go out to your local hardware store or DIY store and pick up compact fluorescent light bulbs or light-emitting diode bulbs, which is kind of a new technology, LEDs. They save about 75%. They only use about a quarter of the energy of a standard old incandescent bulb. And they last many, many times longer. So it's a very, very easy way. You go out and purchase these, you unscrew the old incandescents and screw in those energy efficient bulbs, and instantly you're now saving energy.
So, I mean, you educated me prior to the show. I mean, it's a great conversation. What's the difference between energy and conservation?
Believe it or not, there is a difference. Energy efficiency, we generally look at energy efficiency as using technology to help you save energy. You might buy a high efficiency HVAC piece of equipment, heating and cooling equipment, and it's designed in a way to minimize the use of energy and maximize the reliability of that piece of equipment. Whereas conservation is if I go home and I turn my thermostat down in the wintertime a little bit and maybe put on a sweater. That's conservation. More active involvement in conserving energy and using energy more wisely in your home is generally considered conservation. And as I said, energy efficiency is more around leveraging technology. So you get peace of mind. You don't have to do a thing. You buy this piece of technology that really helps you save energy all by itself, and just the act of you purchasing it is energy efficiency.
Now, what kind of programs, energy efficiency programs, does BG&E offer customers?
We've got a whole host, and we're extremely proud of all of the energy efficiency programs that we have. We have sort of an umbrella called BGE Smart Energy Savers Program.
Okay.
And under which a ton of programs, one that I was mentioning earlier, which is the compact fluorescent lighting. We actually have arrangements with hundreds of area retailers around Central Maryland where we mark down prices and we give immediate discount prices to customers for purchasing compact fluorescent light bulbs or LEDs.
Okay.
We offer one program called a Quick Home Energy Checkup. It's another great way for customers to immediately engage in energy efficiency and conservation, where you can go to our website, bgesmartenergy.com, sign up, actually schedule a Quick Home Energy Checkup, and we'll have a Building Performance Institute professional come out and spend about an hour with you and go through your home and look for ways for you to save energy. While they're doing that, they're going to deliver and install compact fluorescent light bulbs. They're going to actually install some energy efficient measures in your home, such as faucet aerators that'll help you lower your water consumption and lower your water heating bill, and some pipe insulation. They're going to provide that for you. All of this is at no additional cost to the customer. So that's just a couple of the programs. We've got many, many programs that customers can find out about on our website, bgesmartenergy.com.
Excellent. So now, in terms of putting the focus back to students, because that's what our area of focus is, students as well as educating parents, but what kind of opportunities do you have for students in terms of employment opportunities?
There are many within BGE, and of course, given we're the largest utility in Maryland, as I said, over 1 million customers, we have about 3,400 employees at BGE. So there are any number of employment opportunities that might cover accounting, communications, energy efficiency and conservation, like what I do. Of course, engineering is a key, and customer care types of opportunities. So we have a number of programs, and in particular, a program where students can come, internships, and we actively seek out and recruit from area colleges, Johns Hopkins and University of Maryland and Morgan State, any number of the area colleges to try to find students in these fields. We have fields for internships with electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and in the particular area that I'm in, which is regulatory strategy and regulatory interface, we also have internships there as well.
Any final words, Chris?
Well, we're excited, of course, to deliver this message. We want folks to be able to go out to our website, like I mentioned, bgsmartenergy.com, and take a look. And I want to emphasize that it's really, really easy for customers to better manage their energy consumption, lower their energy bills. We've put a whole host of programs together that we've actually been doing since about 2009. And we have tens of thousands of customers that have already taken advantage of these types of programs. So my main message is it's really, really easy, and we've tried to make it easy for customers to be able to immediately start saving once they sign up for these programs or go out and find participating contractors that can install energy efficient measures in their home. So take a look. It's easy.
We'd like to thank our guest, Mr. Christopher Walls from BG&E. Again, this focus is about environment, so we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Launchpad. I'm your host, Harry Washington, and today we're joined by Dr. Sakobi Wilson, who is an environmental scientist and activist, if that's correct. An advocate, yes, an advocate. Dr. Wilson, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
Now, give our audience a little bit of background about your professional background as well as your educational experience.
Well, I'm an environmental health scientist. I'm currently an assistant professor at the University of Maryland, College Park, Maryland Institute for Applied Environmental Health. So I do a lot of work looking at how the environment can impact human health, so looking at pollutants into the air, water, and soil, and also food, and how those pollutants can lead to adverse health outcomes. If you think about air pollution, asthma, you think about water pollution, potentially some kind of exposure that leads to cancer. You think about exposure to food, you consume food where you may be exposed to pesticides. They can have neurological effects. So as an environmental health scientist, that's the type of work that I do.
And what influenced your interest in environmental science?
Well, so I'm originally from Mississippi, so I'm from Vicksburg, Mississippi. So I grew up near the river, so, you know, I like the river. But also in the neighborhood where I grew up in, we were close to a Grand Gulf nuclear power plant. So that wasn't too far, maybe 20 miles down the road. Also live near a concrete plant, a treatment plant, and an oil refinery.
Okay.
And so living in those types of hazards influenced me. And also my father's a pipe fitter, so he worked at those facilities.
Okay.
So he was exposed to, you know, contaminants on the job, and that led to him getting asbestosis and other sort of negative health outcomes. So where I lived, you know, really loving the river and having that affinity for the environment, plus the fact that my dad had these high occupational exposures, really galvanized my interest in environmental health.
Right, so you really have a personal passion.
So I have a personal passion for it, and also growing up, you know, as a little kid, I was diagnosed with alopecia areata, which is baldness in patches. So basically, when you have some kind of stress event, it can lead to alopecia. So it could be an environmental stressor, it could be a social stressor.
Right.
So it's really all those things kind of got me really excited about science. But I really want to know, why did I lose my hair? Right. What stressor led to me having this negative health outcome? Plus the fact that where I live really created a foundation for me to want to be a scientist, wanted to be curious to learn more, but also want to have an impact to address those stressors, whether it be social stressors or environmental stressors.
So, and what kind of researches have you done? Give our audience an idea.
So, actually, I'm pretty new to the area. I moved up from the University of South Carolina. So some of my work in South Carolina, we're looking at pollution related to the Port of Charleston.
Okay.
There are people who live near port activities. Diesel truck traffic, for example, you have diesel exhaust that can lead to exposure to particulate matter and black carbon.
Okay.
Those contaminants were basically, you know, smog or smoke in the air could lead to asthma, can lead to other adverse respiratory outcomes. So we're working with community groups in Charleston on that issue. Also, I'm working on another project in Graniteville, South Carolina. In 2005, Graniteville had a train derailment and chlorine spill. Wow. So there were people who died that were exposed to chlorine gas. And so we're doing a project to look at the long-term effects of being exposed to chlorine gas, particularly as it relates to lung function. Now that I'm here at the University of Maryland, what I'm really doing is trying to build a program of community engagement, environmental justice, and health.
Okay.
So environmental justice is both a social movement. You think about the civil rights movement, it's sort of the kid of the civil rights movement. Right. And then, so it's an economic justice movement, it's a social justice movement, it's also a public health justice movement. Right. And then it has an academic arm. So I'm an environmental justice advocate, and so what I do is partner with community groups to really understand their exposure to these hazards. So if you think about environmental justice, it has basically 3 legs, sort of a stool, if you think about a 3-legged stool. Okay. So leg 1 is the differential burden of environmental hazards. So it could be coal-fired plants, it could be poultry farms like in the Eastern Shore, it could be hog farms in Eastern North Carolina, it could be heavily trafficked roadways, whether it be Route 1, Route 50, all the 95s. If you live near those roadways, you can be exposed to contaminants. Basically, your neighborhood is used as a sink for the pollution. So what goes up must come down. Well, so that's the first leg of the stool. The second leg, many communities that are impacted by those hazards may also have a high burden of psychosocial stress. That could be crime, violence, poverty, joblessness, poor economic infrastructure. So those are called the social determinants of health. And then the third leg is really how these same communities may also have limited access to what we call health promoting infrastructure, green space, parks, grocery stores. You know, in many cases where they have to be more pathogenic infrastructure, fast food restaurants, payday lenders, pawn shops, liquor stores. Think about the work in Baltimore, a lot of the liquor store distribution. Thinking about places that don't have access to grocery stores, we call that a food desert, right? But food desert is an outcome. The system of food inequities is called food apartheid. So that's not my term, but but the system that leads to the lack of access to healthy fruits and vegetables is important to understand, because that also leads to folks, children eating more fast food, fatty foods, which leads to childhood obesity, childhood diabetes, and then of course that can carry forward into your adult life. So my work is really trying to understand holistically how the environment, both social determinants and environmental determinants of health, can be positive or can lead to negative health outcomes and also lead to health disparities.
Now, how can we get students involved in environmental sciences?
Well, I think there are a lot of opportunities with our program at University of Maryland College Park. We actually have been doing a lot of work on the Anacostia watershed. We have one project called Project Caesar,
Okay.
It's an acronym. We use a lot of acronyms. So it's community-based assessment of exposure to substances in the Anacostia River region.
Wow.
So we're looking for students to help us in our project. This project is really focused on people who fish, whether it be subsistence fishers, cultural, recreational fishers, and actually trying to understand the exposure risk and also their health risks. Okay. So we're looking for students to help us with our surveys, looking for students to go out to help us when we go out to catch fish, because what we're trying to do is actually look at the levels of contaminants in those fish, and then be able to understand, okay, where are the fishing spots of concern, what fish, we already know what fish are concerned too, and one of the great ideas we have is actually do a fish exchange program. So for people who fish, they can exchange their fish for maybe healthy fruits and vegetables, and it will allow them the opportunity to get still the dietary needs they need, but not be exposed to those contaminants. So that's like our novel health intervention. So we're looking for students to work on that project. We have another project called Project Recreate, and we actually working with recreational users of the Anacostia watershed. So looking at that exposure risk as well on health risks. And then for people who reside along the Anacostia River in Ward 6, 7, and 8 in D.C., also Prince George's County, and in the watershed in Montgomery County as well, we're looking for students to help us do community engagement, again, do surveys, do sampling. So we have those opportunities. And one of the big things that I'm doing, I'm trying to work with local high schools to help them sort of do their STEM training. So, you know, STEM is science, technology, engineering, math, but we like to call it STEAM, science, technology, engineering, math, and health, because it's very important to get students in the health career trajectories and really being able to, you know, understand how your local context is important, and you can actually do work to address those problems and also get a career from doing that kind of work. As I said earlier in the interview, the reason why I do this work, because I'm passionate about it, but I grew up in a community where there was a lot of environmental hazards in my community. So we're actually submitting a proposal next week to really look at how we can do more environmental health literacy in local high schools in the state of Maryland. And what we're trying to do is to work with partners that we currently have, like Seneca Valley High. We've been in communication with teachers at Ben Franklin High School in South Baltimore. And so we're going to try to get those students to learn how to use photo voice, which is basically taking photos in focus groups. They can go out and really take photos of the community, the neighborhood, and see what are the environmental issues that they have in the community, and they can talk about it, and then actually go talk to the policymakers. We want to see some change. So in that way, you can use photo voice to engage the students, but also to empower them and build a capacity actually to, you know, be part of the environmental decision-making process, which I think is very powerful. And in the state of Maryland recently, Maryland's the only state in the country that has an environmental literacy mandate for K through 12. And so the work that we're really doing will help them fulfill the environmental health component of the environmental literacy mandate. But we really want to bring in that environmental justice, environmental health disparities piece, because there are many communities in Maryland, like in Baltimore and other parts of the state, where you have neighborhoods that are differentially burdened, as I said before, to these hazards. They have lack of access to healthy infrastructure. So the kids can learn about those issues and then be engaged in this project to do something about it. I think that's powerful.
We'd like to thank our guest, Dr. Wilson. To learn more about him, again, his information will be at the end of the show. Remember, I think we could take the words from Dr. Wilson, get involved. We'll be back. Welcome back. I'm your host, Harry Washington, and today we're joined by the Executive Director, Mr. Curtis Valentine of MarylandCan. Welcome to the show, Mr. Valentine.
Thank you for having me.
Now, what's the mission and the purpose of MarylandCan?
Well, MarylandCan is a campaign, a statewide campaign to create policies that will give every child in Maryland the opportunity at a great school.
And now our show focuses on environment, and definitely education is definitely a part of the environment, a big part of the environment. How does MarylandCan, or what areas of education require reform?
Well, in our state, we're looking at how teachers teach. We're looking at what choices parents have and where they sit in their schools, and how students in our state are able to reach their greatest potential. So as an organization, you know, of late, you know, we've advocated for additional revenue for early child development. We understand that that's one of the best investments in education. Also advocating for school choice and more flexibility in how teachers are able to teach two students in their classrooms.
Yeah, because even if you go onto the website, they'll give a nice bio about you, that you reside in Prince George's County, as well as you have children in Prince George's County. What in particular changes would you like to see?
Well, you also know that I'm a former educator myself at Oxon Hill Middle School. My wife has been teaching here in the county for about 12 years, and I have one son who's a public school student, and my daughter will be next year. So my experience is that Prince George's County parents are very, very excited about their child's potential in their future, and we want to make sure that the school system around them supports them and gives them everything they need to reach that potential. And again, children learn differently. I have two children. Each of them learn differently, and I'm sure some of your viewers will feel the same way. We want to make sure that every classroom, every school, every teacher has the skills, the ability, and the wherewithal, and the resources to make sure that every child meets their individual potential.
Now, what got you connected with MarylandCan? How did you get started with it?
Well, my experience has been both as a parent and as an educator, but also as a community organizer and an advocate. I began my career working mostly in international world, around the world, and advocating for youth empowerment in places like Guatemala and places like Kenya, and said, wow, there's a lot of these things that I'm traveling halfway around the world to help children around the world who I think are very much in need, but there's a demand for the similar work here in Prince George's County. And my work again here as Regional Field Director for President Obama's 2008 campaign. Similarly, Prince George is saying, wow, we're seeing very, very strong support for community advocacy around the world, but there's a huge demand here in Prince George's. Fortunately, MarylandCan is sort of the connection of those two. It's community empowerment, it's research around our policies, but most importantly, it's empowering people at the local level to be their own advocates and advocate for change for them and their children.
Okay. And one of the things, in terms of how does MarylandCan effectively achieve education reform?
Well, again, so our campaign is based on data and on research.
Okay.
Just yesterday, we launched our State of Education report here in Maryland, which showed that Black and Latino students are 8th graders are 30 points lower on the MSA scores than their white counterparts in reading and math. We're seeing that from 4th grade to 8th grade is another grade level decline in our students. So it's research and it's how we get that research to people who are on the ground, mobilize them to talk to their legislature, talk to their senator, their delegate, in some cases talk to their school board member, and in some cases talk to the governor and say, I demand more from my child, I demand more from you as elected official. Here's my information, here's my data, and then here's my army of people who have come together to advocate together. So we believe that if you can have the evidence and you have the army with you, that's the most compelling argument for change in education.
But, I mean, just talk briefly. You just recently had an event on February the 5th. Am I right? In Annapolis?
That was January 31st.
January 3rd. I'm sorry. January. What? Just give us an idea. What type of event was it?
That was a charter advocacy day, and what we did was we brought together parents, students, educators from the charter school community from throughout the state, in Prince George's, Anne Arundel County, Baltimore City, and Baltimore County, and really wanted to educate the legislature about what charter schools are about, that they are public schools, that they serve all children, they cannot discriminate against any child, but we believe that there's the environment that's been created is very flexible for students who have unique gifts but also unique needs. And the evidence is clear. In Baltimore City, one of the top schools in that city is a charter school, similar here in Prince George's. One of the Imagine schools is one of the top public schools in all the county, and the demand for that school when you have approximately 60 slots with 600 applicants trying to get in there, there's a huge demand, and we just think that our government should respond to the demands of parents. Excellent.
Now, last question. What are some of the current initiatives that MarylandCan is working on?
Well, we continue to educate the public about what's happening. So again, we continue to push our State of Education report. We're working on finalizing a report card for every school in the state where you could go in and pull your child's school up and see how well your child's school is doing, compare your child's school to other schools in your county and other schools in your state. In many cases, people say, well, my child goes to the best school, and in many cases, it may be the best school in your area, but we want to be able to compare that throughout the state and say that, if there's some deficiencies, you should have the evidence again to go in and advocate. But this year in Annapolis, we're working with legislators on how we can improve access and choice for parents and give them all the ammunition they need to advocate and say, we don't get a second chance with our kids, and my child deserves the best education possible, and we want you to help us with making sure that we have options for where we send our kids, and that's through expanding the application and renewal process of charter schools in Maryland.
Now, any final words you want to give to our viewers?
Well, I mean, I'm just so excited about MarylandCan. I'm excited about Prince George's County. I'm excited about education system here and what the potential is. I know many viewers are quite worried about the state of education now in Prince George's County in our state. But I think if we can come together as a county and prioritize education, but lastly, connect education to our healthcare system, our environment, our housing system, and our job system, that we could actually bring what we call a very uncommon coalition of people who are not parents, they're not educators, they are just Prince Georgians who are saying, in our county, education is the #1 priority for us.
Excellent. We'd like to thank our guest, Mr. Curtis Valentine. And again, to learn more about MarylandCan, you can visit their website, but also you can see their information at the end of our show. We'll be back. Welcome back. I'm your host, Harry Washington, and today we're joined by two special guests from the Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission, Mr. Glenn Diaz and Ms. Felicia James, both engineers. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be
Now,
here.
tell us a little bit about your professional background.
Well, my educational background, I have a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Stanford University. I have my master's degree also in civil engineering from the University of Texas at Austin, and I'm a licensed professional engineer.
Excellent, excellent. Glenn?
I have a bachelor's degree in mathematics from the University of the Virgin Islands in St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands.
Excellent.
And I have a bachelor's degree as well in civil engineering from Morgan State University here in Baltimore, Maryland.
Now, Glenn, what influenced you to want to become an engineer?
Initially, you know, I leaving high school, I started working with an engineering firm while I was in college. And through high school, I did some technical drawing. And while I was working with the engineering firm, I developed a love for what I saw engineering was doing and can do. And so I thought I would definitely pursue a degree and career in engineering.
And Felicia, what influenced you?
Well, I've always liked science and math through school and in high school, and when I got to college, I started in physics as my major, and then realized that I really liked the applied part of science, which is more engineering oriented. When I looked at the different fields of engineering, I'm very interested in the environment and in water-related issues, and civil engineering seemed a natural fit.
Now, describe exactly what your job title entails with WSSC.
So right now at WSSC, I'm responsible, or I help coordinate the replacement of our buried water pipes.
Okay.
We have over 5,600 miles of water mains under the ground.
Wow.
Some of them 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, even 100 years old.
Wow.
And what I do is help prioritize which ones we replace first.
Okay. And is that an easy process?
It's a very challenging process. We have hundreds of miles of water mains that need replacing in the very, very near future, if not now. The question is, how do we decide which ones to do first with a limited budget?
And Glenn, what exactly is your job entail?
Well, I'm on the wastewater side of the business at WSSC, and my job is to manage and direct the condition assessment of the buried wastewater pipes. We have about 5,500 miles of pipe over a wide area, and we basically, my job is to collect information on the condition of each one of these assets, analyze the data, and make recommendations for rehabilitating any deteriorating elements of that system.
What's the most difficult aspect of your job?
You know, just trying to balance, and very similar to what Felicia says in terms of prioritizing where we need to spend our money to most effectively replace the system to ensure that we're maintaining high standards, good customer service, and conserving as much as we can any disruption to customers and to the environment.
Now, what advice would you guys give to students, high school students entering the workforce?
Advice that I have for high school students entering the workforce is really be enthusiastic about what you do. Science and engineering and math, they're not very easy things, but when you stick with it and get through it and just keep working and trying, the rewards are great. I really love what I do. I love that what I do benefits people and the environment. And it just takes a lot of dedication and enthusiasm and wanting to be very good at what you do.
Glenn, same question. What advice would you give them?
I would actually start by just a quote that one of my math professors told me as a freshman in college. Math is not a spectator sport, and none of the sciences and most of the technology fields are not. So you really have to continue just the way as young people and as athletes you practice your craft, whether it's basketball or soccer or whatever sport. You have to do the same in education. And that really covers all the fields in education, which sets the foundation for what you do in whatever field you decide to pursue in business.
No, I guess a question to both of you. What advice would you give to parents in terms of trying to push them to get their students interested more in engineering or any STEM-related field?
One of the things I give advice when I speak to kids, as well as parents, is engineering, math, and science, it's everywhere. You know, it's everything we touch and feel and experience. One of the exciting things is how do you let kids know that this is something that you can do for a job. This is something that you can do and earn income from and still enjoy it. I'm always promoting, everyone who knows me knows I love math.
Okay.
And I like to tell kids math is like a language, and to let them know that you can do it. We don't want to, we want to encourage them to pursue this. So for parents, I say, you know, point out the things that you see around you. You know, let your kids know how exciting these things are and how important and valuable it is. We're at the point now where we're passing the baton to the next generation. Say, okay, we've set it up. We need someone to pick up the baton and keep running with it to help our environment.
Exactly. Glenn, same question.
Yeah, you know, pretty similar. And this is something I do with my own kids in terms of, you know, we're driving, excuse me, on the highway or anyway, you show your kids what technology is doing, what engineers are doing, and what engineering can do. Just sitting in the car and all the technologies in the cars today, to show kids that the skills that you learn in school and the skills that you can pursue at the college level will definitely help you be very creative and innovative. Even in the wastewater business, it's you know, it's not the cleanest business in the world, but we have some very creative and innovative technologies that we're using to perform condition assessment on the system, and parents need to really show these fields in that positive light to encourage kids to pursue these fields in technology and engineering.
And then my last question to both of you is, how would you make your job relevant to a student, make it important to let them understand that this is an important job and it is something that helps the environment? What would you say?
You know, a lot of times, and for most people, you brush your teeth, you take a shower, you don't even consider what happens to the water that you use.
Right.
You flush the toilet and it just goes away.
Okay.
A lot of people don't really think about what happens because it's all underground, it's all hidden.
Right.
But there is a field that we're in, providing water on the underwater side and taking that wastewater and making sure that it gets to a point where it can be treated properly, returned to the environment safely and clean to continue to preserve the environment. Okay. And that's really one of those areas that a lot of people don't see, but is very, very important.
Same question, Felicia. How would you make your job relevant to a student?
Well, I would say water is essential.
Yes.
It's part of everything that we do and are involved in. We can't live without it. Someone needs to help make sure that when you turn on the faucet, there's going to be water, and when you flush, the water's going to go someplace.
Right.
That's a very, very important job.
Right.
Why not go ahead and do it?
Exactly.
So.
Any last points from either one of you, Felicia or Glenn?
Let's see. I'd say, for me, you know, science, the math, engineering is very exciting.
Yes.
And I do it because it's something that I can see the benefits.
Okay.
I know that when I'm driving down a street and I see that there's been a new water main put in, I know that people are benefiting. Real people are benefiting from that. And you know, every dollar that we get at the commission, I want to make sure that it's being put to good use for the benefit of the people we serve.
Yeah.
So.
Any last words?
Yeah, just you know, basically the as you starting to decide what you want to do in terms of a career, really think about how you can make an impact and how you can make a difference And you see that every day in most things that you do. For me, it was being part of a survey crew as an 18-year-old.
Oh, excellent.
Or doing some drafting, and as you go along, you actually see that they've built the road that you helped draft it, or the building that you helped work on is actually completed, and that gave me at least a sense of pride. And for a lot of fields in engineering, you get that feeling when you see the accomplishments and you see how what you do positively impact our communities.
Excellent. We'd like to thank our guests, Mr. Glenn Diaz and Felicia James, for joining us, as well as our other guests. To learn more about them, you can view our credits at the end of the show. Thanks for watching. But also remember that the Career Choice event will occur on Saturday, February 23rd on the campus of Morgan State. Thanks for joining us.